Welcome to Complete BS, the official podcast of couch coaches everywhere. Not just football. It's every sport that ruins your parlay, wrecks your fantasy week, and still brings you back for more. Buzzer beaters, blown leads, and brackets and flames. Yeah, we're all over it. Unfiltered takes, armchair analysis, and enough bold opinions to fill a playbook. Hosted by Brian Schmuck, sports junkie, the Saban of stats, and your official voice of I could coach better than that. Let's go.
Couch Coach Nation, we've wrapped up Week 10. 5 teams from the AP Top 20 fell. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas Tech, and Utah, they dominated their games. The rest of the ranked teams playing, they were all in pretty competitive games, and it was an exciting weekend of college football. No thanks to YouTube TV and Disney, we've got multi-billion-dollar company trying to squeeze sports fans for just a little extra money. Make no mistake about it, this is all at the feet of Disney, who wants you to move away from YouTube TV to Hulu, which they own, or the ESPN app. Cutting the cord and going to streaming was supposed to make things easier for sports fans with more options and the multi-view. This isn't it. We got people now making decisions in ties that throw a football like Uncle Rico, and they're just ruining things for fans. They need to get this fixed and get it fixed quickly, hopefully by next Saturday's games. But back to football. Tuesday night, we get the first college football playoff rankings. We'll see how the committee views teams. Do they have Indiana 1 or Ohio State at 1? We'll see where their bias is at and how many SEC teams get in the mix and how much do they undervalue Big 12 teams like BYU and Texas Tech. As of this recording, no coaches have been fired yet, but we'll see. I think Hugh Freeze is going to be gone before you actually listen to this episode. And Jonathan Smith at Michigan State, he may be gone too. He may finish the season, but I think he's done, and he knows it. AV, any opening thoughts on the weekend?
Yeah, college football is always great. I sit there and watch it all day long. I didn't think it was the most exciting list of games. There were a few good ones, but we actually had a lot happen. Duke did something they haven't done in 45 years and win at Clemson. Mississippi State and Florida State broke long conference losing streaks that went back over a year. SMU beat a top 10 team for the first time since 1983. UVA is 8-1 for the first time since 1990. Army beat Air Force 3 times in a row for the first time since the 70s. So there were some cool accomplishments, some good games. It always fulfilling. It's crazy. What'd you say? We're in week 10. So you start to look at the schedules, though, and teams only have 4 games left. And every weekend in college football is a good weekend. And before you know it, you're starting to wind down. I will say that the ACC picture is a little muddy now. Georgia Tech losing. There's 4 teams with 1 loss, and then you got Miami sitting there at 2-2. Georgia Tech losing really, I think, keeps the door open for Miami. If they just won out or they continue to win out from here and they take up one of those spots, it makes it really hard for Miami to get in. But if Georgia Tech loses 2 games, I don't know what the tiebreakers are, and those 1-loss teams play each other. That gets a little weird, and then the group of 5 stays interesting to watch. I think you guys throw North Texas in there now.
Well, let's get to our games that we covered last week. SMU at Miami. Miami was coming in top 10 team, and SMU gets the win 26-20 with 2 losses out of the last 3 weeks. I gotta believe we're in full view of the typical Mario Cristobal late season slide. This is due to poor leadership and no culture within that program. Year in and year out, Mario Cristobal is one of the 3 coaches that gets the least out of the most talented players. The other 2 I said preseason are Brian Kelly and James Franklin, and they're now on the unemployment line. I said last week that Miami's key was getting Mark Fletcher 85 or more yards. He only got 84 and they lost. Not saying it was all on Fletcher, but that number has been there for them all season. And when they have close games versus not having close games, and part of that is just to the game control and being able to wear down your opponent and control the clock. Miami dominated the first half. They limited SMU to 4 first downs and -6 yards on the ground. But at every critical juncture of the game, Miami committed a penalty or they had a turnover. Late in the game when they should have been running the ball and burning clock, they're throwing passes, incompletions, and stopping the clock, helping SMU out. Miami's a better team than SMU is. But Mario Cristobal will always find a way to lose in November. I'll have more on that later. AV, what do you think of this game?
You nailed it. I think one of the most jarring stats of the game is SMU had 23 yards rushing, and that's with 25 yards rushing in the overtime. So at the end of regulation, they had -2 yards rushing, but they had 365 yards passing. I'm going to say something that a lot of people won't like. Ruben Bain is the most overrated player that maybe has ever existed, and he's really good. I'm not saying because you're overrated means you're no good, but when all they can do is pass the ball and he gets 0 sacks on the day, I don't want to hear about pressures and assignments and PFF grades. They needed 1 sack, and that game's over on a couple of those drives, and Ruben Bain couldn't get the job done. He rarely does. He's got 2 sacks on the season, but when you stop a team from running the ball, you typically win the game. But when they can throw the ball for almost 400 yards, what are we doing? A very kind of a confusing game because Miami won a lot of the stats, but they lost the turnover by 1. But they really lost the penalties. Penalties and turnovers killed them. Credit to SMU for hanging in there till they could win at the end. Fun game to watch, but it's another 2 losses in the ACC. I don't think the door is slammed on Miami as much as most people do. I think there's going to be some end of the season craziness, but I also think Miami could lose another game too.
Yeah, I think they can lose another game. I think the door is shut on Miami getting into the playoffs at large.
Yeah, agree.
But they could, if they get into the ACC championship game and win their first ever ACC championship game, obviously they'd be in the playoffs.
I agree with that.
Georgia, Florida, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I think this is, for me, was the game of the day. Jaden Baugh going over 100 yards has been the key to victory for UF all year. And to do that, he likely would need about 25 carries. He got 15 carries for 72 yards, added 3 catches for 17 yards. Late in the first half, Florida's up 10-7 with less than 2.5 minutes to go on their own side of the field, and they go pass on first down and second down. These are times where you run the ball, you run Jaden Baugh, you kill the clock, you go into the half with a lead. It causes UF to have to punt and give Georgia the ball back with just over a minute to play, enough time for them to run 7 plays in 54 seconds and kick a field goal to tie at the half. This was a horrible turn for UF with their play calling, and Georgia took advantage. You move to the fourth quarter, UF's got the lead 2017. Their last 2 possessions, turnover on downs. Where's your punt game? Why are you going for it on 4th down? Sure, you'd love to go for it on 4th down, pick it up, and be able to ice the game, but you've got the ball. Punt it away, play defense. Your defense has been playing really good at this point in time. You've held Georgia to 17 points. Trust your defense, Billy Gonzalez. Florida, I know you don't have a coach. You got outcoached in this game. Plain and simple. Kirby ran circles around you. This is one that got away from the Gators. Georgia didn't win this game. Florida gave it away.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I don't know what goes on with interim coaches and new play callers. Billy Gonzalez said he wanted to open it up a little more. They had 166 yards passing. Lagway looked exactly like he has all year with VB3. With him out, Eugene Wilson looked really good. He had a big game, but Dallas Wilson had 1 catch for 7 yards. So were you opening it up? No. Jaden Baugh is your best player. You probably could have got it to him more often. But this was a game to me with just 2 good defenses, 2 capable offenses, or at least talented players on both sides. And Georgia just made more plays at the end, probably better coached, better prepared, and they kneeled the ball the 1-yard line when they could have went in to cover a spread and decided not to. But hard fought by Florida. That's good that they didn't roll over and quit with their coach out. We'll see how the rest of the season plays. This is their rivalry and kind of their Super Bowl. We'll see if Lagway finishes the year. I'm assuming he will, but you never know. But I thought it was an entertaining game. Good effort by Florida. Good win by Georgia. Kind of what you would expect if you knew that one team had a coach and one didn't, and they both played hard.
Absolutely. The nightcap, Utah 45, Cincinnati 14. This was a rout. This was domination by Utah. And statistically speaking, the game was close in yards, but Utah dominated the game. And the second quarter was the real undoing for Cincinnati. Just into the second quarter, they're down 14-7. They miss a field goal, force a punt and get the ball back, only to fumble it away. Utah goes on a long drive, adds a field goal to go up 10. Another punt by Cincinnati, 6-play, 70-yard drive. The Utes, they're now up 24-7. It had gotten away from Cincinnati, and that's all they could do. Devin Dampier, weren't sure if he was going to play. He did. He provided almost 300 yards in the air and on the ground. Wayshawn Parker, the running back for Utah, added 104 yards rushing. I don't have a ton to say about this game because Utah just dominated them.
Yeah, they did, and I'm glad you brought up the stats. I was going to bring up the same thing. Is if you look all up and down the stats, it's pretty even game. Time of possession wasn't even, but everything else was pretty even. Third down efficiency, rushing yards. The only thing that really was the difference was Utah cashed it in, and they had the home crowd, and things just got out of control from there. But Utah looked like the better team by far. Cincinnati's still a good team, but that was a rout in the first half.
It really caught me off guard after watching the game and then coming back and looking at the stats, how close the stats looked, because I thought it was going to be 2-1 for Utah. And the fact that they were so close, but yet what my eyes told me in watching the game were two completely different things. Let's get to our game balls. I've got two to give out. First one, I'm going early game. Julian Sayin, quarterback, Ohio State. He was nearly perfect on the day. 20 for 23, 316 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He had 2 57-yard passes to different receivers, Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, but neither one of them was something that was like a little underneath 5-yard pass and the receiver did all the work. These were bombs in the air, in coverage, on the money. Julian Sayin was hitting on all cylinders. Penn State was outmatched, no doubt, but it looked like he was playing against air. He made it look easy. And then we're going up north to their rival, Michigan. Jordan Marshall, he was the Michigan Wolverines offense. He was all of their offense. 25 carries, 185 yards. He scored all 3 of Michigan's touchdowns. And after Purdue cut the lead to 5, Michigan went on an 11-play drive to end the game, and Marshall was called on for 7 carries and 52 yards in that drive. He picked up 3 first downs to end the game. AV, you got a game ball?
I do. So we're going out to NC State versus Georgia Tech. NC State's got the ACC leader, undefeated Georgia Tech, coming into town. No Hollywood Smothers, BS. What are you going to do? Tell you what they're going to do. They're going to turn around and give the ball to Duke Scott. He goes for 196 yards rushing, for going on 8.2 yards per carry as well. And then throwing another 15 yards or so receiving, and he has over 200 scrimmage yards. So really impressive win. They put up half 100 on Georgia Tech, and Duke Scott was the star of that show.
Yeah, I looked at his numbers too. 71 yards in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Just turn around, hand it to him. That was impressive.
Let me throw some more love, and we've talked about this guy a lot on the show, but speaking of love, Jeremiah Love, he now has 900 yards rushing. It's like 894 or 896. Another 250 receiving, over 1,000 scrimmage yards already this season with 4 or 5 games left, 14 touchdowns. I think he's the best player in college football, and that includes Jeremiah Smith. I think he is the best player in college football. Probably won't get the Heisman because they love to give it to quarterbacks, but he is my Heisman leader if I were getting a vote right now. Now, there's still a third of a season. That could change, but I really have enjoyed watching Jeremiah Love this year.
And we didn't plan this, but I was looking at who would I have on my Heisman list, and I put 4 guys on it, and I looked at Love too, but I went with Julian Sayin on there. But at the same time, I think he's maybe the 3rd best player on their team at best. He's not better than Smith. He's not better than Downs. So that's kind of hard to give him a Heisman if he's not even the top player on his team. Fernando Mendoza at Indiana's got to be there. Ty Simpson at Alabama. And even though he just lost, what Haynes King does week in and week out for Georgia Tech, he should be in this conversation. He had another 100 yards on the ground with over 300 yards passing. He needs to get more consideration for the Heisman and in the conversation, because if you take him off of that team, this is not an 8-1 team. This is a 5-4 kind of team.
Yeah, I agree. And Diego Pavia is the same way. So I think Diego Pavia and Haynes King, I haven't compared their numbers, but they're very similar players. I think Pavia probably gets to New York because he's in the SEC, and Haynes King doesn't. He doesn't get any attention, like you said, or not the attention he should. But I agree. Haynes King is an MVP type guy. Without him, they wouldn't be anywhere. I really like Trinidad Chambliss too and what they've done, but he had a 156-yard passing game or something like that last night. Those types of games and close Heisman races really hurt. Like, you look at Pavia and even Haynes King, like, he threw for over 300 against Texas. So even though they lost, he shined. So I think things like that can matter.
That's 7 names that we've just real quickly off the top of our head with the Heisman. We hadn't even really talked about a case for Jeremiah Smith. That could be 8. It just shows how many good players there are in college football and how everything is still undecided. We've got a month of football. We've got 4 games left. Someone's going to have a big game on a big stage, have that Heisman moment. We haven't really seen it yet where there's been any kind of separation. That's what November football is all about. When we're talking November football, Mario Cristobal does not understand November football. I've got questions, Mario. In 2023 at Miami, you started 6-2. You went 1-4 down the stretch. Last year, you started 9-0. You went 1-3 down the stretch. This year, start off 5-0. You're ranked in the top 4. Now you've gone 1-2 in your last 3 games. I think there's at least one more loss coming at Pitt. Who knows how you play versus Syracuse, NC State, and at Virginia Tech. There could be an additional loss in there. Even you want to go back, it's not a Miami thing. Go back to Oregon in 2021. You started 9-1. You went 1-3 in your last 4 games. This is how Mario Cristobal teams are. They're off-season champs. They win recruiting battles. He's a good recruiter. They start the year with some wins. Everyone says they're back. With Miami, they talk about the swag. But any sort of adversity comes up and they fold like a Dollar Tree lawn chair. There's no team culture with Miami football. And this is a program that has legends of the game and NFL stars roaming their sidelines around the program all the time, telling the young kids what Miami football is all about, and it doesn't matter. You got Michael Irvin going around week after week, acting like a clown on the sidelines. You got all these guys, but they can't make the current day players care because they know that their coach, Mario Cristobal, is a cream puff. He is soft. You got penalties, bad clock management, bad coaching decisions. You don't make in-game adjustments. There's no accountability from you. This is what the team culture of a Mario Cristobal team is. They're bad. And unless you can make adjustments and change your stripes, this is who you're going to be. The Miami Hurricanes will never win a national championship with Mario Cristobal associated with their program. AV, you got questions?
Yeah, somebody should ask questions to Carson Beck at some point too, because that interception he threw that cost them the game, like at the end in overtime, was really bad. And both their losses, he's thrown interceptions. But my questions, this isn't a Mario Cristobal level rant, but I do have some questions. And it's for Josh Heupel in the University of Tennessee. You say, AV, Josh Heupel, they were 6-2 going into last night. Not bad, not bad. And then they lost to Oklahoma. No shame in that. They're 6-3 team. But then you lift up the hood on those 6 wins and you see a hamster running on a wheel. BS, here's their 6 wins versus Syracuse, might be their best. East Tennessee State, UAB, Mississippi State just won their first conference game in 2 years. Arkansas fired their coach. Kentucky about to fire their coach. That's it. That's their 6 wins. So you lose to Georgia and Alabama. Okay, understandable, acceptable, I guess. But then you lose to Oklahoma. And the reason I'm bringing that up is Oklahoma doesn't have great wins. Their best win is Michigan, and then a bunch of nobodies. So now you're losing to teams who you can question whether you should be losing to. Tennessee was ranked 14th in the country with that resume. Best win is Syracuse, who has a losing record, by the way. 14th in the country. They're going to be ranked after losing to Oklahoma because it's an SEC game. So, you look at their schedule, those 6 wins have more fluff than Smokey's dog bed. Anytime they play a team with a pulse, they fold like a cheap tent, a Knoxville thunderstorm. But they're going to be ranked because SEC, and Josh Heupel will be considered a good coach because he beats nobodies. Wake me up when Tennessee wins a meaningful game this year. I think Josh Heupel's offense has a ceiling on it, a cap of who they can beat or how many big wins they can get. In other words, I don't think they're ever going to win a national championship, maybe not an SEC championship. They could play their way into a playoff, a 12-team playoff, because they're in the SEC and all you got to do is beat one good team and you're going to be ranked top 10. But anyway, I have no hate for Tennessee or Heupel, but I don't like 6-3 that isn't really 6-3 in my opinion. Be somebody good.
Yeah, if you did a blind resume between Arizona State and Tennessee, they're the same. They're both 6-3. They have average at best wins. They lose to good teams. Arizona State's not going to be ranked. Tennessee will.
Yep, for sure. Speaking of Arizona State, throw Jeff Sims a game ball.
There you go. Yeah, big game on the ground. On Thursday, we're going to have BYU national champion quarterback, Heisman finalist Robbie Bosco here talking about the BYU Texas Tech game. You can follow Complete BS on X and Instagram. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening to Complete BS. Be sure to subscribe, share, and follow us online. And tell us what you think of this episode. Use hashtag CouchCoachNation. and let's keep the conversation going.